Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Roll Call on True Crime with the Sarge. I'm your host, Joseph Giacalone. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I hope you have your hot beverage or warm beverage or cold beverage, whatever you enjoy. Appreciate you guys spending some time with us this morning. I have Lauren. She's in the green room. Just want to quickly, for those who've never seen a roll call before, what is roll call? Roll call is when the cops get together for either the day shift, the 4 to 12, or the midnights, and they get together and they talk about exactly what they need to do for that day. So they get their assignments and they find out what's going on. And of course, the famous pop culture reference, Sergeant Phil Esterhaus. Let's be careful out there, right? And actually, there was one of the actors. I think his name was Sicking. He was the lieutenant from that show. Just passed away this week. So we'll just talk about some of those other things. But without any further ado, we have everyone's favorite pop culture reference journalist, Lauren
Thank you.
Conlin.
And look,
Oh, look, we got matching mugs.
I know. Thank you so much for this. This honestly is my favorite mug now. And I collect mugs, and you didn't even know that I collect mugs.
No, I didn't. But that's great. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I know.
So, yeah, I was just saying, because I always talk about Sergeant Phil Esterhaus when he used to say, let's be careful out there. But one of the actors from that show, James Sicking, he was the lieutenant that played in the SWAT thing. He passed away a couple of days ago. So there's been a lot of Hollywood stuff, and I thought of you, Lauren, because all the different pop culture Hollywood stuff going on. There's nothing seems to be like criminal in that. But does anything jump off the page with all of those those celebrity deaths this past week?
Actually, yes. And this, I don't know how to phrase this. I think it's worth mentioning, but I want to be very clear. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial at all. TMZ reported yesterday, so many of us didn't know how Richard Simmons passed away. I am a huge fan. I was a huge fan of Richard Simmons. I really, really enjoyed him. I loved following him on Twitter, all of his tweets that he was doing lately. He was a great storyteller. But I don't know if you recall this, Joe. In 2016, two of his friends, it was like a former masseuse, and I forget who else, but they started this podcast, and it's called Missing Richard Simmons. And this is when Richard decided to disappear from the public life forever. And a lot of people were like, dude, where are you? And it wasn't anyone's business. He really just wanted to disappear on his own. But the masseuse kind of said when he went over there unannounced, it appeared to him that Richard was being held hostage by his housekeeper.
Yeah, I remember stories going on about that.
Yes. And so Richard's reps are like, are you crazy? She's been with us for 27 years. She's, part of the family. She's not holding him hostage. Richard said so himself. He actually called into a show. Maybe one of the viewers will remember what show he called into to say she's not holding me hostage. But anyway, when Richard was found, he fell on Friday night, which was his 76th birthday. Apparently in the bathroom, his housekeeper found him and she said, you really should go get checked out. He said, I'm tired. I just celebrated my 76th birthday. He went to bed. And then it was reported that his housekeeper was the one that found him on the floor unresponsive at 10 a.m. That's all I'll say. The housekeeper who has lived with him and worked with him forever, this is not abnormal. But I just thought it was worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when you have a couple, most of these people were up there in age too and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, nothing really jumped off the page to me and nothing in regards to conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But I do remember.
You could make one with Richard, right?
Yeah, but that's not my gig, right? I don't get into the conspiracy. I like dealing with the facts and what we know, and I deal with the what the district attorneys tell us, right? So I guess we'll wait for the medical examiner's report and the cause and the manner of death, and then TMZ can run with that. Then once TMZ, as soon as you mention TMZ, a lot of people just go, "Oh, okay,"
Well, to be honest though, and I totally get that, they really do have great sources and they have great contacts. They are always the first to report these celebrity deaths. But
it's amazing. I know what they do.
Yeah, the Emmy report is out. It's been released to his family. We just don't know it yet. So I'm curious.
Yeah, actually, I was on TMZ once. So they're actually good. They're actually a good group of people.
Fun. What did you say? I'm so curious.
I honestly, I don't remember the exact, but I was on there for quite a while. I remember doing it. It was like a 10-minute kind of show, because usually you don't get on there. Like, listen, I've been doing this new stuff for like 12 years. I don't know how many hundreds of TV appearances I made, and I'm not bragging here, but I'm just saying
I get it.
most of them are like 6 seconds. Like I used to tell people, don't blink because you might miss me. So,
So true.
but so
So
when
true.
but when you do them and you're on it for 5 or 10 minutes, you remember those because it's a long time. 10 minutes live on TV is a long
Yes.
time.
And you
But
did that for
yeah,
TMZ?
yeah, I'll find it. I have the link. Somewhere.
I
I'll
would
find it.
literally love to see that. Oh my gosh,
Oh, I'll
because
send it to you.
it's something that I'd probably be so interested in because it's crime and obviously some kind of pop culture.
Yeah, it
So
was. I'm trying to think of what it was, but I have the link for sure.
okay,
It wasn't that long ago, maybe about a year or two ago,
I'll
and
search it. I'll
and
search
I
for
also
it.
the biggest thing that I ever did was on CNN. I ran the desk, me and one of the anchors, I forgot her name, but I was on the desk for 2 hours during the remember they had the Denimora case, the guys that escaped prison.
Yes, yes.
2 hours on the desk, just me and the anchor. And that
Wait,
was what happened. Was I had gotten to school early because at the time
wow.
CNN was right down the block from school, because they
Yeah.
moved now. They're in the Hudson Yards. And they reached out and said, "Listen, can you come to the studio?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a couple of hours to kill." And I never realizing that it was going to be like that all day. And I have that video somewhere too. But yeah, it's
I would love to see
wind. Oh
that.
yeah, I'm winding down with this stuff too, though. I mean, jeez, I look back on all that stuff. So let's get into some of the other things that.
I'm like so fascinated though. I'm like, wait, keep going.
Oh yeah, no, don't be. Believe
But
me, don't be. So let's give a quick update on Nikki Saelee McCain, right? Because there's not a lot of information on there, but I do want to keep this case, in the public eye, especially here for our channel, because a lot of people are interested in it. Because you have this young mother who has disappeared. For those who don't know who Nikki McCain is, she disappeared. Her truck was found on an Indian reservation, right? Protected lands, the Rancheria, as it was at the Rancheria. She's
yeah,
got four children,
4 children.
and she was supposed to be showing up for a court case against her husband on a domestic violence case, and she didn't show up, and they didn't dismiss the charges. They just held the court date. But is there anything
Yeah.
besides? Yeah, there was some news this morning about reward money, right?
So yeah, it's they did dismiss the charges. The DA
Oh, they did. Okay.
reserved the right to reopen the case, when it's appropriate. Yeah, a couple things. So when we covered this episode on Nancy Grace, I was able to meet Brian Fitzgibbons, who is from USPA Security, and he's wonderful. His organization actually flew him out to Reading to work this case, and then he was able to come on a live stream with me and Jarrett Ferrantino, my co-host on my other show, Primetime Crime, and he actually gave us the update that USPA was going to be adding $10,000 to the reward, which was funny. It just came out in the news today, and I
Right.
didn't
Yeah,
even
it's
really.
20,000 now, according to the news I saw this morning.
Yeah,
So
and the Reading Rancheria actually put up the first 10 grand, and it's been speculated that they're not exactly doing enough. The Reading Rancheria, I don't have enough information. It is sovereign land. I've heard a few things that there are some loopholes where the Shasta County does actually own some of this. It was a public law note. I was trying to look into it, but it's tough. But I have reason to believe that the FBI has to be involved at this point, and we just don't know because it's been so long, and this is so incredibly suspicious, Joe. I mean, let's be honest. It's like, I'm not implicating anyone as a suspect, but really there's only one person/one group of people that would want her gone, maybe to dismiss these charges. And I've spoken to her sisters, Nikki's sisters, and Brian has as well. And yeah, of course they were trying to convince Nikki to drop the charges, and Nikki was having communication with Tyler's family. And what we established last week, which I found very important, was that Nikki was confirmed to have left Mercy Hospital at 11 p.m. by Tyler McCain's brother's girlfriend. She confirmed this. And when I say everything has been so tough to come by, it's because it's an open investigation with Shasta County. They cannot share anything, and they have not shared anything. We don't know one thing. So I think the public, we're trying to piece this together as best we can. And so that's why there aren't a ton of updates, but it's starting to really upset me, I guess, because I'm just like,
Well,
it's the California, this area, it's known for the fires and for the wild animals. And it's just like, where is she? You know, I'm not trying to be negative or not be hopeful, but I'm getting like antsy. And, you know, and I don't have skin in the game. I can't imagine if it was my sister, my mom.
right. No, I mean, and when you're dealing with these cases now, Shasta County, correct me if I'm wrong, was also the Sherry Papini case, right? But if you remember, that case went on for quite a while. And if you don't know who Sherry Papini was, she was the one that said she was abducted, and then they found out about a year or two later that she was, you know, didn't tell the truth. Let's just put it that way. And the issue that comes down to is that they held all that information close to the vest too. They didn't leak anything out.
Yeah.
So when, you know, and I look at, you know, law enforcement agencies in that respect, right? So you see how they handle previous cases, and you see that how they're handling this case the same way. So listen, the cops always know a lot more than everybody else, and the public is left guessing. The only thing is you know, you build in the conspiracy theories, of course, and then you also then, you know, when people start targeting people, you have to be really careful because, you know, someone could get hurt. You don't have any evidence, so you have to just go with it. You can think, you can have an opinion on it, but you know, I just tell people, you know, because I see some of the stuff that people write online about this
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm just like, boy, you know, you're gonna get somebody hurt. But the issue that comes down to is this case is interesting because she's a mother of four, right? And I have rarely seen a situation where a mother will just abandon her four kids like that and just leave to try to get out. I mean, if she's trying to get away from a domestic abuse situation, you know, they would usually try to grab the kids and go that way, right? But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, there's some things that Brian has shared with us that he has learned that, you know, the public just can't know about as of yet. And, you know, I think when you bring up Sherry Papini, some of the locals have stated their discouragement with the people and I guess law enforcement as well. From what they know, they just feel like Nikki is not getting the same attention. What is it called? It's called something like blonde. It's called like, I don't know. It's like a term about just when a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl goes missing and everybody like jumps, and then when someone that's, you know, doesn't have the blonde hair, blue eyes, it's I don't remember what it's, I'd have to look it up, or if someone knows what it's called. But they were kind of saying, well, the whole town was turned upside down with Sherry Papini. Why isn't that the case with Nikki? I also think part of it is the sovereign land and the Redding Rancheria. And
yeah.
I can't remember if we discussed, but Tyler's aunt, his mom's sister, is the vice chair of the Redding Rancheria. He has a lot of family ties there.
I've heard it. I've heard it quite often, right? That the police, you know, pick and choose things based on people's race. I can tell you from my personal experience that never happens. But you know, we don't say, oh, that we have a missing person. Oh, what you know, what race are they? You know, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Or at least, like I said, at least not my thing. But you know,
Yeah.
I let's put it this way: we never want to see that happen ever, right? So we want to just make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. I'm just saying that that would be an absolute awful thing. But the issue that it comes down to is that this case is interesting for the fact that, you know, you have a mother of four that's disappeared under suspicious circumstances, and people are interested. But you're right, this case has not gotten the amount of press that the Sheriff Papini case did. I could tell you, I could tell you that from personal experience. Yeah, I know. I could tell you that from personal experience with the Sheriff Papini case. 'Cause I was in that case getting quoted, you know, in the very beginning of it. Actually, I was that's my time at People magazine too.
You gotta show me this, dude.
Oh my
you have
God,
to
yeah.
show me all of it.
I kept some of this stuff. I don't know if I have it all, but yeah, there's a People
You
magazine.
should keep it.
Yeah. So yeah, some of these things I like to keep hidden in the basement. But
wait, Joe, I think and I think you worded that much better than I did. It's not really the police. I'm sorry. It's media and it's the locals. That's who I mean. That she's not getting the attention from the media and the locals. You know what? It's still early, so sorry.
That's okay. Well, listen, I mean, yeah, the media can do that, but you know what though? Listen, social media is taking up some of that slack.
Yes.
I get updates from Legacy. He or she tweets
Yes.
me and keeps me in the loop. But
Hmm.
it's like you said, I try to keep my hands on all the buttons over here, but it's just impossible to be up on everything and remember everything too. I'm getting old too,
It's
you know.
hard.
So is there anything else about the Nikki McCain thing before we move on to the next?
So just to plug it, we're going to be having Brian back on Primetime Crime tomorrow night at 8
Okay.
p.m. Yeah, we're going to feature him with some updates. We might get Chloe on. I don't want to put them on the spot. I know that, there's so much that can't be shared. So I don't want anyone to feel like they have to, be so vocal, but we also just want them to know that there is a community of people out here that support their family and support Nikki. And people are asking me about a GoFundMe. And maybe, it would be unclear to these people, like, her sister's like, well, what do we need money for a search when the police are doing it? Well, it's more like Nikki has 4 kids. And, kids are expensive and dad seems to be off doing whatever. Oh, that's funny. And yeah, so I hope to get an update on that, how we can help, from New York and other places. But tomorrow at 8 p.m., yeah, the Primetime Crime live stream.
And that's on your YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, that's on the Primetime Crime show. I now have 2. It's so.
Oh, you have a different channel too. Okay, so I have the
Yeah.
Pop Crime one on the Nightbot thing. So you're gonna have to make sure we get the if somebody can find the Prime Crime one and put that link in the chat first.
Karen and Sheila are I don't know if they're here, or like Sue. They know Primetime Crime with Jared.
Sheila Duffy.
Yeah, Sheila knows.
She's in the room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So she knows. She could probably find it. Yeah. I'm just thinking.
So Sheila, if you're there, if you can post the other link, because I was only familiar with the one, so we have to make sure we get them all.
So the pop crime is obviously pop culture crime, whatever, but Primetime Crime is with the former homicide prosecutor Jarrett. So that is strictly crime cases, and yeah, he's awesome. He can speak to all the legal stuff too, which is helpful.
Okay, cool. All right, so if Sheila can do that for us, yeah, there she is. Okay, so Sheila, you can just put that on there for us. All right, so where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to the Alec Baldwin young thug thing, or do you want to do the God's Misfits?
Let's do Baldwin and Young Thug.
Okay.
Yeah, tee us off there, Joe.
So I'm going to start off with the Young Thug, right? So Jeffrey Williams is his real name, but I'm not 100% on this case. I'm like about 10% on this case. But the only thing is, it's actually a tie-in to what's happening at what happened out in New Mexico. In this case, the judge now has been. His name is Ural Glanville. He was the judge. He has been removed by the Superior Court judge because basically of a misconduct where he had a meeting with the prosecutor and key witnesses and like didn't tell anybody on the defense, right? So I don't know if they're referring to this as a Brady violation or what have you, or whatever it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly not a lawyer, but you can see that this is not a good thing. So he's been removed. So this case now is in total jeopardy for another, not prosecutorial misconduct, but this judge misconduct. So it's absolutely insane what happened over there.
Yeah, and I jumped into this case very late, and it was going on the same time as Karen Reed, so I didn't necessarily direct my attention over there. But Shaming of Jay, he puts together these very entertaining clips that I would sort of watch at night, and then I was like, wait, I need to start paying attention to this trial more. And then when I did, I started paying attention right around the time that the judge was threatening to throw, what's Young Thug's lawyer's name? He's threatened to throw him in jail every weekend from the end of June to August. And dude, this lawyer was so badass. He was just like, and I'm blanking on his name, but he was just like, yeah, okay, I'm going to appeal. But like, if it doesn't work, can I at least be, thank you, Brian Steele. Yeah. Can I at least be in the same cell as my client so we can work on the case? And I was like, holy moly, that I heard.
Yeah, I remember hearing that part. Like I said, I have just seen bits and pieces of this case. I really, like I said, my attention was drawn to other things, and I never heard of this kid before. But that doesn't make any difference either. You don't hear about any of these people before, unless they're absolutely famous. But the issue that comes down to is, what's going on in our criminal justice system, right? Because we're going to segue this into the Alec Baldwin case in a second, but this kind of really puts, what's going on between on the prosecution now and now at the bench, right? Because we heard a lot of complaints about Karen Reed's trial, right, with the judge Beverly Canoni.
Yeah.
So, I mean, something's got to happen, right? So I just wanted to, before we get, sorry to cut you off there, I just wanted to wish Tracy, so it's her birthday, so I just wanted to wish Tracy a happy birthday. So maybe I can, there we go.
So fun. I hope you have
Happy
a great
birthday,
day.
Tracy.
Love
So,
it.
yeah,
Well, Joe,
birthdays are important.
really quick, I don't know if you're familiar with this, and we didn't even talk about this, but we're just talking about judges. And again, I was not prepared, but it just made me think of it. The Maddie Brooks case, the LSU student, she was gang assaulted after getting into a car after leaving a bar.
Oh, I heard about that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the judge in that case, if you want to, gosh, we could talk about that for an entire episode. But in that case, Maddie Brooks was a blonde-haired cheerleader, and 3 of the 4 suspects were Black. And the judge is Black, and she donated to she was on the board of the NAACP. And then she had recently commuted 2 rape sentences of men of color in prison without being asked, at all. And this was right when she got to the bench, which was a few months ago. And additionally, her own son, she defended him in his own assault case. So a lot of people were like, well, should this judge really be in charge of this case? This seems to be. So I'm kind of like, oh boy, this is an interesting one. But again, we don't necessarily see judges side with the defense, right? On a lot of these cases, not unless we're watching television. But
if we start looking into every judge, what they do, what they did before, what they donated to, I think a lot of people would be outraged. So I would withhold that judgment on that case.
Not do that then? Shouldn't judges not if they know that? Why wouldn't they And this is just this is a real question. I don't know, be better.
Well, listen, I mean, the things that would definitely impact decision making is something that should be, what do you call? Hey, listen, there's a lot of issues with judges and how they get appointed and how they get elected and everything else that you have to take a look at, and the politics behind it, which I never talk about. I don't talk about politics. I got people try to drag me into the events this week, and I had my fingernails into the ground. Yeah. I just don't get into that. I'm not into that stuff. I mean, I just don't. I don't.
No, I get it.
I don't enjoy it. I don't talk about it. And I really don't care.
Political, I guess, to talk about what happened, but apparently you do, because if you say I totally am with you. I thought I was saying the most straightforward statement. Yeah, no. Had nothing to do with either side, and it was.
Yeah, no, I forget politics. I don't get involved in that.
Yeah.
But all right, so we had this. So you had this big development in the Young Thug trial with the judge being removed, and then let's switch it over to Alec Baldwin. I know for most people this is old news, but I put out a quiz question based on what's going on here, because this is really important U.S. citizen stuff. I know I'm going to lose some of my UK friends here now because I'm going to talk a little bit about U.S. law. But speaking of our UK friends, we have a huge following now coming out of the UK. It's grown tremendously. So I want to thank everybody, especially Becky B and her mom. They kind of beat the drum over there, try to drum everybody up. But
love it.
Here's the issue now. You have the Brady versus Maryland case, which I believe was 1963. And this is something I always teach my students too. And I even wrote about it in my book. And that's what is really important. As American citizens, you need to know what is going on here. So the Brady versus Maryland case made it mandatory that the prosecutor has to hand over all exculpatory evidence or information that could exonerate their client, right? And it actually includes the inculpatory stuff too. So basically, it's that discovery dump that you always hear about. You can't withhold something because it's bad for your case. Mm-hmm. That's basically what had happened. So you can't just say, okay, we'll give you A, B, and D, but we're going to leave out C because C is a bad deal, right? So that's something, that you have to be concerned about. Well, this is what now has just upended the entire Alec Baldwin case. And actually, myself included, was actually shocked to even see that develop, because never dreaming in a million years that they would even try something like this.
I know. And Carrie Morrissey played it off really well in the press. If you saw her interview after, I thought she was just like, oh, like she was skillful in her and the way she just kind of brushed it off when the rest of us witnessed what just happened in the courtroom. And she was like, no, it's not, like, I didn't even know we were going to use it. I had no idea. I forget exactly what she said, but yeah, that was shocking. I think it was shocking clearly to everybody, including Alec Baldwin. I don't think he could have dreamt of a better scenario here. I think it was just, gosh, it was mind blowing. But, and it's just funny because this weekend, that was the biggest news. That was such a big deal. And the next day, Trump just kind of took that over. So it's just interesting that we kind of stopped hearing about it after the attempted assassination.
Yeah, no, it definitely fell off. I mean, listen, the other news was definitely.
But I want to hear more from people. I wanted more people in the media and everywhere to cover it. So
that's why I wanted to circle back on this because this is an extremely important case for every American citizen, right? Yes. Now you have to question, and people have questioned this. On social media and of course even on the news, and saying that if this was me, I'd probably be going to jail because I can't have that high-powered attorney that's going to discover some of these things and find some of these things out. What happens to those people? So now, but this also opens up to like all other cases that she's had now, and the people don't understand that. Once you have identified prosecutorial misconduct, once it's already now out in the open, and this was a huge public case. Now defense attorneys start lining up and say that my clients were convicted, and now they have to go back and look at all these things. We might see a surge of requests to have their cases looked at from the district attorney's office. I mean, this is like, guys, and people think, well, you're bringing up the Alec Baldwin thing because it's good for your algorithm. I could give a crap about the algorithm. The issue that comes down to is it's about you and me as American citizens, and like what we have to be mindful of. I mean,
it's politics too, Joe. Like that's what we also have to keep in mind. Like the state needs wins for specific reasons. And it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying to think about. And I won't lie, I thought about certain things in the Reed case that I felt were suspicious to me, but I would never dare put it in writing anywhere. But I thought about it just because I have no proof. And somebody on a live yesterday had told me about this show to watch, Presumed Innocent. It's on Apple TV. And I ended up binging the first 5 episodes last night. I'm not going to give it away, but literally it's about a prosecutor. It's literally this.
It's based on the Scott Turow book, correct? Is it Scott Turow who wrote the book?
It's fictional, right?
I read that book a century ago. Yeah, it's a good book.
Okay, so I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Like it's Baldwin, it's all of us, it's terrifying. And it makes me
If you want, especially because you do the pop culture references and stuff, the Rainmaker with Matt Damon and same kind of situation, right? Where they're fighting this major company. I mean, if you guys have never seen that book, you ever read that book? That's a great book, but the movie was almost close to it.
Grisham, right?
John Grisham, I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you want a good movie to watch, if you got nothing to do, look up Rainmaker. That was a phenomenal movie. As a matter of fact, that was the first movie my wife and I went on a date with because I screwed up the times. Well, actually, our first date was at the World Trade Center. We went to the observation deck because we were supposed to go see the movie. She was working in Manhattan. I went to go pick her up. And if you remember years ago, I don't know how old you are, and I don't want to know, but
it's okay.
When I was okay, yeah, so you're still a kid. Back in the day, we had to look up the newspaper to see what movies are playing, but the movies changed on Fridays. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, everything changed. So if you didn't look at the newspaper on Friday and you just looked on Thursday, you got the wrong time. So that's what I did.
So funny.
So when I went to go pick her up, the movie had already started. So we missed the movie. So, and I was like, what do we do? And I just happened to just turn to the left because she worked down in the Village.
Yeah.
And I just looked to the left and there was the World Trade Center. I said, let's go to the So we went there. So
Oh.
that's where we spent our first day. And then we ended up going to the movies anyway. But the Rainmakers, that's just a
Wait,
cool
how
person.
long have you been married now that we're getting personal? Just curious.
25 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay, what's the secret to a successful, happy marriage? Not to put you on the spot, but
I always have the last words. Yes.
that would be the worst secret. Literally that I would always have the last words. That would not be a good.
Yes.
Wait.
Yeah, actually, listen, I got lucky. My wife's great.
If
She has
your
to
wife
put up with
is
my
in law
garbage.
enforcement, or like, are
No.
you opposite? No. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband is nothing like this.
So Meg's got a question for you. Do you think you guys think that what makes a better judge, an elected judge or an appointed judge after they are in the seat? That is, well, that's a tough question, Meg, because the problem with the judges, or what we see with judges, is that we want to make sure the judges are objective and that they're right down the middle, that they're not too far to the left, not too far to the right, right? We want to see judges do the job based on the law. And that's always been my concern when you're dealing with this stuff, especially when you're picking people to the Supreme Court. And that's why they fight so hard for these Supreme Court things, because they're worried about too many people on the left, too many people on the right? We want people to be objective based on what the law says. That's my only hope. And that's if we can test that, Meg, beforehand, that's the judge I want.
I actually just wrote that question down. It was a really good question. So I can do a deep research on that later and in terms of what has worked out. So, oh, hi, Sal.
Hermit Sal. So yeah, no, I've written 2 books: The Criminal Investigative Function, A Guide for New Investigators, in its 4th edition, and The Cold Case Handbook. The links are in the, if you're interested, the links are in the show notes. But thanks, Sal.
Sal loves to read. He's very supportive, so he will most likely buy your books.
Well, that's great. And you might be able to find them in a library too. So if you can do that. So this is so I asked the question, like I said, on the quiz for the Alec Baldwin stuff. And then I tied it into, I got another quiz question. So for those of you that are watching, I'm going to give you the quiz question today, right? What constitutional setting does the Brady decision have? And that's in the 14th Amendment of the Due Process Clause, where you are entitled to this information. And that's where they're all brought up, because a lot of people think, it's the 5th Amendment, the 6th Amendment, right down to incriminate oneself, the right to counsel, and all that other stuff that goes along with it. And believe me, those are really short versions of the 5th and 6th Amendments, folks. So make sure you read the whole thing. But the 14th Amendment is a huge amendment for a lot of different things, specifically in like eyewitness identification and everything else that goes along with it. And the reason why I know this so well is because it used to be my job to make sure that you fall within those guidelines from the law enforcement perspective before handing over the case to the district attorney. So yeah, this is really important stuff. And so if you get the question wrong today, I'm going to go crazy. So this is what I do with my students, right? I give them the answers and then they get it wrong and I'm just like, blow my mind.
Some of us have ADD. We can't hear every word, okay?
So 14th Amendment is the answer to today's question.
14th Amendment, you guys.
14th Amendment, yeah, it's the Due Process Clause.
You're going to drive him crazy.
People will do it just to, I put George Costanza down for an answer for one of the things, and people chose it just to drive me nuts.
You had to know that was going to happen. It was Mike. Mike did it. It's his fault.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Mike did it, but there was several other people that did it too. Oh
God.
Yeah, no, I mean, so listen, yeah, well, Hermit Sal has a question, says, are more DAs withholding evidence nowadays, or am I imagining? Well, we don't have the answer to that question, of course, but they just got uncovered in a major case on live television. Yeah. I mean, see, this is why having cameras in the courtroom, people say, well, we want to put cameras on cops because cops, they'll act better and this and that. But you know what? Cameras in the courtroom now are discovering some serious stuff. So you have 2 cases where the judge has been now thrown off in the young thug trial, and you have this Alec Baldwin fiasco. So yeah, I mean, bring the courts in the courtroom, bring the cameras in the courtroom.
What are the odds? I guess, and again, we don't know. This is not so we weren't planning on bringing up Reed, but since we're talking about judges, what are the odds here? Private. Oh, sorry, I'm just going to read that. Hi, Disney.
So Carrie Morrissey is an actual private attorney, but was hired by the DA to be a special prosecutor. Yeah, and the other special prosecutor, Orlinda Ocampo, she resigned before this decision even came out, which I give her kudos for that. I mean, I like to have heard those conversations because that led her to that resignation. That must have been a knockdown, drag out fight.
She was on Cuomo. She was on quite a few shows, and I'm going to have Jack Fox break down both parties, Carrie Morrissey and Erlinda's statements later on this week. So, because I'm dying over that. I'm dying to know how, statement wise, how those, how they line up. But yeah, I'm just thinking about what's that?
Sorry, yeah, you know what I'd like to see you ask your friend there.
Yeah.
Ask him, like, say, if he was in that position, what did he? Not for he was in that position, but if he was a fly on the wall going on there, what do you think the conversation was happening between the two of them when this thing first came out? I think that would be a great question because, listen, being that fly on the wall and a lot of different things, but that the lead to her to say I'm out, and then to go on to News Nation right afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
And just tell through the whole world. Oh my, yeah, there's some bad blood there.
Yeah, no, she did a bunch. But yeah, I guess I was just curious, like with the Reed hearing coming up on July 22nd, and what we know about Canoni at this point, what are the odds that she can actually get pushed off this case, or or relinquishes herself? Does that happen? Do judges step down on their own? I haven't necessarily seen that with my own eyes, but I'm sure there are cases.
Well, they can recuse themselves, right? But it's too late for that. Yeah, it's too late for that. I hate to get dragged, but this is like the Godfather 3 with the Karen Reed thing, right? Every time I'm out, they drag me back in.
I'm just wondering. I'm like, I can't help it. I can't go one show without talking about it because I'm so curious.
Well, just on a quick side note, because I want to get into the God's Misfits.
Oh yeah.
What's happening in Canton, right? We saw this thing bubble up with the police, right? So people getting suspended and people getting removed and all that other stuff, and then things have quieted down a bit. But I think there's other things that are working in the background that we're not. I think it's just going to be like one of those things where things will just come out. I don't know exactly what's. I can't predict this one. I predicted a couple of things that came true in that Karen Reed case.
Yeah.
Specifically with the police and the law enforcement angle. And a lot of people didn't believe that the cops were going to get scrutinized the way they do. But once you got the governor talking about it, not once, but twice, several times, listen, it's going to happen. So I think people need to be patient. But I also had, if you remember what, Lauren, we were on the last show, not the last show, but the last time we were talking about Reed. And I said that if Proctor gets removed, and I thought he was going to, that this puts the entire retrial in jeopardy. And I think that gives Morrissey is out, and then Morrissey just can retire early and get out of this whole mess. And I think that's what we'll see.
Ooh, let's wait. I love the dual last name Morrissey in these cases too. My gosh. Just realized that. Yeah.
So Michelle's watching Presumed Innocent 2 remake. I highly recommend. Yes. And
it's
actually,
so
someone
good.
said that they need to get Apple TV. We don't get any money for if you sign up for Apple TV. So you go do that. So here's Teresa. Rainmaker is now free on YouTube right now. There you go. So there you go. All right. So we are now 38 minutes already. Wow. 200 people, over 200 people watching. If you're just joining us now, we have Lauren Conlin from Pop Crime TV. And what was the name of the new channel?
Primetime Crime Show.
Primetime Crime Show. I'm gonna have to keep a scorecard with you.
Yeah,
because you got you got the Outliers podcast too, right? So
yeah. I'm
trying.
You
have the trifecta going on.
I'm trying real hard.
So we were just discussing a couple of the other cases. We're going to get into the God's Misfits in a second, but if you could please remember to like, subscribe, and share, that'd be great. Let's get into the God's Misfits. Yes, God's Misfits, right? So this has to deal with these 5 individuals. For those of you that don't know what this case is about, this is the Kansas moms case. Veronica Butler and Jillian Kelly disappeared on their way to go pick up the kids, right? They were going to the mother-in-law's. Yeah, Veronica's kids. They were going to the mother-in-law's house, and they disappeared. That started this, basically national manhunt going on to find out what exactly happened. It turned out, unfortunately, that they were both found deceased in, I think it was a freezer, right? Were found in a freezer on the property of one of the, on one of the suspects.
Feet below the ground.
How many feet?
15.
Wow, that's deep. I mean, usually people do not. Usually it's a shallow grave, so this was found 15 feet below.
Well, they Tad Cullum allegedly used a skid steer to dig on property that he had rented, and he, it's been said they're the dumbest criminals because they put the disturbed dirt over it and didn't even fix it, so it just looked ridiculous, and it was a few feet away from a dam as well. It just looked incredibly suspicious.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? So then they arrested 5 individuals over that investigation. They refer to themselves as God's Misfits, which is something specifically from the Bible or something, I think. Do you know anything about the reason how that name came about? Because I'm really not familiar.
Yeah, so it's actually crazy because, we didn't really know what was going on when we found out that the women were presumed dead. We didn't this I don't know anyone who was following this. I was following it very closely. I really was attached to this case. I really was hoping they'd be alive and they were being held somewhere. So they did have 4 suspects to start, and Grandma Tiffany Adams was allegedly the ringleader. Eventually a 5th came out. We kind of saw a 5th name mentioned in the initial affidavit, the police affidavit, which is when one of the suspects' daughters actually kind of said what happened. But it didn't come out that they called themselves God's Misfits until this affidavit was released a few days later. And then everybody was like, oh my gosh, because if you see these mugshots of these people, it's like something out of a Rob Zombie movie. It's terrifying. And I'm not being cruel. I'm honestly not. If you see them and then you see God's Misfits, you're going to be like, what? And then you go down and you read the affidavit further, and they hold meetings for this group, God's Misfits, at some of their houses in town. I'm told by some of my local sources that there are many God's Misfits in town, and people are nervous to speak out. Now, I did an episode of Nancy Grace and we were covering this, and Nancy found a leader of God's Misfits in a different state, and he goes by the name Squirrel. And he was like, this is not my group. I have nothing to do with them. God's Misfits, it's a different term, that we use. And it just stands for like, God loves everybody. It doesn't matter. We're all misfits. But he wanted to make it clear he had nothing to do with them. He did not know them. They were completely separate. But this guy Squirrel is the only one that's sort of ordained here and that has like an LLC with his group, God's Misfits. Hi, Peter. But yeah, so it really affected me, again, because these 2 women were moms, and between them, there are 6 children. Veronica has 2, and they're very little, and Jillian has 4. And at this point, this case is so crazy that the last hearing, they had all 5 suspects in court together, which is pretty much unheard of. But at this point, it's like they're trying to save time and not do all this, 5 separate times. But they're going to have discovery hearings because there's so much in discovery every 3rd Wednesday of the month until they're finished. And the discovery hearing is tomorrow. And it's insane what we keep finding out, based on, the evidence, the cars, the blood, the clothes that are found. There were guns found now. I want to point out, there was the judge postponed the manner and cause of death. So we don't even know what that is. And the autopsy report for 6 months. So we're probably not going to find out what happened to these women until September or October. And what was really interesting to a lot of people, me included, was Tiffany Adams, the ringleader. Most of us thought she had a lot of money. She was well connected in the area. I ran a few background checks on her. I did a lot of research on her. She serves on boards. She seems to own a lot of land, but none of her assets were really listed publicly. She did have some kind of land deed that her dad left her and her siblings, but it was only worth like $100,000. But this is a pauper's affidavit, basically saying that she has no money, she has no income, and Texas County, your tax dollars got to pay for her 3 public defenders. So I was like, oof, that's brutal. But I think that we're probably not going to see justice in this case, Joe, until 2026.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting case because of the whole dynamics behind the whole thing in regards to the quote unquote usual suspects, right? A lot of things kind of panned out for a lot of people who are, guessing in what was going on with that. But this seems to be an overly brutal case. But when I was reading about it, this is something I picked up on, and I don't know if you have mentioned this on maybe one of your shows, whatever. They said that when they were excavating the site, when they found this freezer that was buried under, you said now 15 feet, but I found a little tidbit in one of the news articles, or it might have come from the affidavit itself. It said that personal items were discovered from the pit that did not belong to the victims.
Yeah.
Which to me, that kind of raises like they didn't say they didn't belong to the defendants, but they said it didn't belong to the victims either. So the question comes down to: is there potential other victims that are other information out there that we don't know about?
So I
Did
think
you know anything about that?
Yeah, you might be referring to there was like a sweatshirt and some jeans and I think a belt or something. Those were presumed to be the defendant's clothes.
Okay.
Like they had bloody
That would
clothes.
make sense.
Yeah, and they just threw them down. I mean, like I said, these are the dumbest criminals ever. Like the absolute dumbest. Paul Grice, the fifth suspect, who he was arrested later. I mean, he asked his neighbor like the stupidest questions. He's like, will DNA show up on clothes? Because I feel like I was at the Twombly's house. They've been arrested, and I was like, in their backyard with the dirt. So is it going to show up? And oh, by the way, how do I get my family to Mexico? Yeah.
But that first statement that he made, because he had made a couple of statements to this witness, but that's why in investigations, canvassing is so important. Knocking on people's doors and talking to people because you don't know, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to ever find out if you're the investigators if you don't knock on people's doors and ask questions. And you have to ask the right questions, and you have to be careful of asking questions, even like, "Hey, did you see anything unusual?" Because what's unusual to you might not be unusual to me. And I'll give you, for instance, we were doing it was a shooting, and we knocked on the door, and the one of the guys said, "Oh, did you see anything unusual last night?" And the guy's like, "No." And he's like, 5 people shot outside your building isn't unusual. He's like, "Dude, this is Brooklyn. It happens all the time." So you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful. So you're asking the right questions. Sherry Wilson has just wait till Delphi comes up. Hours and hours of interviews lost. Listen, there are 2 cases I'm concerned about after watching all this stuff. Right, Delphi, which I really haven't been following too closely, but the Brian Kohlberger case is another one and I've been on the record from the beginning that there were problems with the crime scene and all kinds of crazy stuff, and that one's going to be off the hook nutty too when that thing kicks off. But what's happening in our criminal justice system is absolutely insane. I just want to say, Lupo Nina, thank you very much for gifting those 5 memberships. I really appreciate that. That was very generous of you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm worried about the Delphi cases and the the Delphi case and the Kohlberger case when those things kick off.
Yeah.
But just even to throw in another reference, when you were talking about discovery and the amount of information, just think about the amount of information that the district attorney in Suffolk County, Ray Tierney's doing with the Gilgo case, right? I mean, hundreds of electronic devices, 2 search warrants. This is going to go on for quite some time.
Yeah.
But and I think he's being very careful about making sure that these discovery deals are met, because of the fact that you don't want a situation where something gets left out and somebody gets thrown, case gets thrown out over a technicality, even if you didn't do it on purpose. If they find out that you withheld something or something that you missed, it is what it is.
Yeah. It's crazy. This particular case has really stuck with me. I think about those families probably more often than I should. And maybe it's the mom thing, and maybe it's the child thing, even though, all victims are incredibly important. But I think this one, it disturbed me to my core. The fact that, people, they think that they have
the Kansas
right.
Moms case.
Kansas Moms. They have the right to, and a grandmother of these, you have the right to take these children, no matter what you think happened and what you think, it's just, it's mind-blowing to me. And I think about these women and just how scared they must have been seeing these faces, the last faces they would ever see before their lives were so tragically taken. It drives me crazy. And I do think, Joe, that we are going to be hearing about more God's misfits in the area. 100%. There was another couple cited a few times who had these meetings at their house, who supposedly took the children the night before, the murders and kidnappings were going to happen. So I feel like, and I don't know what kind of charge could that be an obstruction charge? How do they prove they knew about this? They probably did know about it. We have to be crazy to think that they weren't told, but for whatever reason, these people haven't been arrested yet. So when I say that people in town are scared to speak, this is why. There is a gag order, but that doesn't matter for family, friends, whatever. It's obviously just for lawyers and police and anyone involved directly with the case. But, again, adolescents. Totally. And well, actually, I'm not going to get into something else, but no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I know I want to say something else that I'm not supposed to say about a different case, but it's intense, and I will be here. I'm going to follow this case until the end. So over the next 2 years, I contact Texas County literally every week for these filings, because every week there's something bizarrely new, completely bonkers.
Just remind me, I want to talk to you about the documents in a second, but I know when Tommy had put up the thing about the Adelsons, but when you had to say, like, how are they going to connect this? Listen, we know text messages, phone calls, videos, and we also know that this guy was talking to neighbors too. So like I said, I think if they find anything out, right, they have that information through electronic means for sure. It's easy to do that these days. And but do you for your shows, do you have any links that you post these documents so people can download them and read them?
So I haven't. I probably should do that. I've done many podcasts for the Outlier on this case, as well as Primetime Crime. I should do that. I should put it on Pop Crime TV. Right? Is that a thing? Do people want to read these themselves? Probably.
Well, I found that,
Okay.
and Dizzy is in the room there. Dizzy can help you with that. She's got a Discord thing that I can't, that I tried. I couldn't do it, but
because it's all about time, Joe, too. Like intellectually, I know what I should be doing. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. But then
but you have a family too. Yeah. I mean, you got kids and everything else going on too.
Yeah.
Life goes on.
My son walked in here and acted like a dog last time. I don't know if you remember. You didn't see him because he walked in and then he sat at my feet like a dog for about 5 minutes until he walked out on all fours like a dog. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's hey, listen. I mean, we're not running a major news network, so we're not worried about that. But it makes for good TV. We're just sitting, talking, chatting, having fun in regards to the things happen. They happen. But listen, there are so many cases that are on the docket that are coming up. We do know now that what was it? The Madeline Soto case is going to be coming up soon.
Yeah. That one gets me. Her mother drives me insane. I don't want to say too much because we don't know everything yet.
Yeah. But Stephen Stearns, that case is coming up relatively soon, because remember, they had jumped to it that they were going to do the speedy trial bit. Man, talk about this was like light speed trial.
Yeah.
And that was before they even dropped murder charges.
Yes, and that's he's facing the death penalty, I believe, right?
Well, Florida for sure. Florida's got People people think Florida and Texas are the biggest death penalty states. Per capita, they're not. It's actually Oklahoma.
Oh, well, and Kansas moms they're facing the death penalty. I do think that somebody or multiple people in that case are going to make a deal, so death penalty is off the table. So maybe it's only on for Tiffany Adams, who knows? But you know what else? October is the Rachel Morin case that's going to trial.
Oh, and that was the other one, the Rachel Morin case. Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking as you were talking, it's hard to think about something, to have a discussion, see what's going on in the chat. Tommy, the Discord I couldn't do it. But
I just can't add one more thing. I'm so stressed thinking about it. Like,
well,
I just
at the very least, you have a website, right? At the very least, you could just put a link to
yeah,
the documents. You could upload the documents into it and just put a link to it. Just because people want to follow along or read about the affidavit, because
yeah,
sometimes people have a difficulty time even finding them. So
you're
it's
right.
I look at it this way: if you can put it together in one place, people will come and just deal with that, and it helps if people really want to read along. Cause I like reading. I don't watch TV. I don't. People
Yeah.
still think like, oh, how do you not watch TV? I don't. I
You
don't.
don't have
I'll
like a
go.
show at night that you just turn on and fall asleep or like, no? Oh, wow.
Nope.
I'm kinda jealous. Do you
Nope.
read like a
Yeah.
intellectual person would? Good for
No,
you.
intellectual. Listen, I've been called a lot. I've been called a lot of things, Lauren. Intellectual isn't one of them.
I think you're intellectual. I really think you are. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
is a
No.
genius in their own right, okay? Like
Yeah. No.
humble,
I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of reading.
I should
And
do
and
more.
doing this stuff has taken up a lot of my time. Too much of my time sometimes too. I mean, because the research and the make sure that you try to, because there's always somebody willing to correct you if you get something wrong. So that's always fun. But
I get it 100%. It's just funny because I will stay up reading and catching up on this stuff, but for whatever reason, I can't just go to sleep. So maybe I'll finish reading and doing all this at like 11. I will stay up for 2 more hours and watch a show just to like feel like I have time for myself. It's like, I don't know. It's a weird habit I have to break because I don't get
yeah,
enough sleep.
yeah, no, I mean, listen, it is what it is. But so anything, so we only have a couple minutes left, but is there anything that you're following or anything you're looking for specifically in the next couple of days to see if anything breaks on any of the cases that you've been following?
Well, I think for me, there's a couple things that I'm trying to get ahead of, and I do for the outlier. I really want to do a detailed episode on Sarah Boone. I really want to get that out
Oh
there, and then
God.
weeks. I know I'm
Hey,
fascinated by that one.
it's week 3. She hasn't fired her attorney yet, so this is good.
You imagine? I know exactly. So I'm trying to get that whole thing together and some research done so I can put out an episode, which honestly, like it's still the outlier. I do my best for interviews to put them on YouTube, but for that, it's probably going to be audio only just because there's so much research involved and I have to read and like, whatever. But there's that. And then it's with the Nikki McCain case. I really am staying on top of this.
Yeah.
And I really want to continue being a part of this investigation as best that I can, because I do feel like I can offer help and I can, I can play a part here that somebody should in the social media world. You know what I mean?
All right, so Lupo Nina says, I read crime and serial books to sleep or a crime show. That's a hell of a way to go to sleep there. And then Rochella, I binge on Netflix series I like.
Yeah.
I don't have Netflix.
Oh my God. Like what
I don't
really?
I don't
Okay.
have Disney Plus. I don't have Netflix. I have Amazon Prime because I have the TV because it comes free with the thing I signed
Yeah.
up. Um,
Okay. Prime, you could watch some of the same things on Netflix, I think, but there's a few. I don't know. Oh, Joe,
but
you're so funny. You're
it's
so
not for I was always like this. I never really watched TV. And people,
I
I
want to
have
do
never seen an episode. Listen, talk about pop culture stuff. I've never seen an episode of the people in the coffee shop.
Friends.
Friends, people are like, what? I've seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Seinfeld.
Yeah,
I've
those
never
are,
seen a Quentin Tarantino movie. People are like shocked that I've never seen it.
you would love those. You would love those movies. You really would. They're entertaining. They're very
I,
entertaining.
so yeah, but
No,
it is
you
what it is.
you absolutely would love those. I need to be more like you, but I do have a stack of books, which is like In Cold Blood, and then I have Frank Figluzzi's The Highway Serial Killers, and then I actually have Maureen Callahan's American Predator. Those are the 3 books on my nightstand right now. So I'm with your guest.
Well, if you're looking for, and this is for everybody, if you're looking for a great fiction book, my favorite, Nelson DeMille's Plum Island. I mentioned this
Oh,
before
okay,
on
all right.
other shows,
Plum
or at least
Island.
one show. Plum Island. Yeah, it's a small little island off of Long Island. Nelson DeMille is one of my favorite authors because he comes from Long Island, so that's one of the
Okay.
things. So it's the hometown hero kind of stuff. But
Fun.
it's a fantastic book, and it starts off this series of his main protagonist, uh, John Corey, who's he's a sergeant or a cop from a detective, excuse me, from New York City Police Department. But if you want to read, I mean, this, I guarantee you, you'll read this book in like 3 days. It's one of those kinds of books,
Oh,
and
great. I'll probably
so
order it after we get off.
yeah, Plum Island, yeah, folks, if you want to read
Yeah.
it's so Michelle's saying she's reading all the Lincoln Lawyer books. I
Oh,
haven't gotten to those yet, but
me either.
I like some of the fictional history stuff books, like
Yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Shara books about some of those, the historical events, that kind of stuff too. But
I mean, I gotta get on Plum Island. That's my number one. That's
read
my
it,
show.
read it,
I will.
read it.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you. I guarantee you. If you don't like it, I'll pay for the book. Let's do that.
Okay, deal.
All right, deal, Lauren. Okay,
Yes.
folks, we passed the hour, so that was fantastic.
So
Everybody,
fast.
hope you guys have a great day. I know it's going to be hot for most of us out there. Just try to make sure you're well hydrated before you go out there. Have a great day, and you guys, you hang out for a second, Lauren. We'll say goodbye to everybody. We'll see you. We'll see you this Friday. Mike is allegedly back. We'll be doing roll call with Mike on Friday. You guys have a great day.